Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health with Sara Banta. I'm a busy wife, mom of 3, and an NAMP certified supplement professional. But that's not all. I'm also the founder of the multi-award-winning Accelerated Health Products, a brand offering innovative, natural scalar-enhanced supplements to optimize your health. And this podcast is not just a source of information. We are a community. We're all here to learn and grow on our health journeys, regardless of where you are today. And this podcast is the springboard to learning. The free group coaching on Telegram is where we continue learning together. You can ask your questions. I post tips and tools to deepen your health every single day of the week to keep you motivated and moving forward. So here's what you can expect. New episodes every Monday and Wednesday with in-depth health discussions and expert guests like today, and hot topic issues that are in the news every Friday to keep things fun. And then, of course, followed up with the free group coaching on Telegram. So the website, SaraBantaHealth.com, has all of the links that you're looking for. Have you thought about detoxing, but you're a little worried about those detox flu symptoms? Do you have to be on a juice cleanse and starving? No. I have created 10 unique, easy detox cleanse programs to help you reset your body while feeling great without the symptoms. You can take the detox quiz at SaraBantaHealth.com to find out which one's right for you. And if you're not ready for a detox, you just want to start with 1 or 2 supplements, fill out the protocol form on the website, and I will personally put together a protocol for you. I am so excited about this topic. Our guest, Jenn Malecha, is focused on the things that I love talking about: thyroid, gut, and liver. And she is an expert. And I love the fact that she's gone through some similar things that I have. This conversation we could probably go on for hours and hours about it. But Jenn is a dedicated health coach who specializes in helping busy, health-minded professionals take control of their health with a focus on personalized lab testing. She uncovers the missing pieces of the health puzzle to identify what's truly impacting you. And that's the whole problem. We go to the doctor, we get these labs tests, we're told we're normal, we feel like crap, and we don't know what to do, right, Jenn?
Exactly. That's my story.
Exactly. That's everybody's story. And I want you to tell your story, but I have to open up, and those who have listened to me over the last few months know that my liver was under attack by viral activity, then bombarded with a supplement that had a hidden ingredient that was backing up my liver. And what did I see on my blood test? My thyroid numbers went down. My testosterone was in the tank. All of these things. It wasn't a thyroid medication that was going to fix me. It was like, love your liver, and then some of the pieces will fall into place. It's amazing. And we're also in this world now where, after the pandemic, the spike protein, the toxins in our water, and all the things that you talk about are making things more complicated. And the medical system is not equipped to help us out with all of this stuff.
Yes.
Right? So with that being said, tell people your story. I think it's going to help them feel a little more comfortable, like they're not crazy, that stuff's going on in them that no one can figure out.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is we just want people to know that you're not crazy, right? You're not crazy. There is validity to whatever it is that you're feeling in your body. And we do not want to ignore the signs and signals that our body is giving us all the time. But, like most, I did that for a really long time until it got so bad that I had a wake-up call. And that wake-up call for me was actually being diagnosed with skin cancer at the age of 25. So I would say that I grew up in a generally healthy, kind of eating and activity type of environment. Like, I have always been interested in nutrition and health in a way. I used to get up at 4 a.m. when I was 5 years old to ride my bike while my dad went running in the morning. And we had a garden and we grew our own food, and we always had really balanced meals on the table. And I would come home from school and do my homework and then play outside until the sun went down, you know? And so that carried through as I went off to college in San Diego. I went to San Diego State, and I was active, and I actually studied kinesiology, which is the study of the body. I studied pre-physical therapy, basically like fitness, nutrition, and health. So I started to develop really severe allergies, seasonal allergies that would manifest into ear infections that would wipe me out for days at a time. And this was really odd to me because I grew up in Northern California around farm fields and ranches where there was a lot more agriculture going on. And you would think like pollen and allergens in the air as a result of that versus living in San Diego, 2 or 3 miles away from the beach where there's these like, you know, cleansing like ocean breezes that come through. And so I started to really like wonder about this, like, this is so odd. Like, why is this happening? And at that time I was struggling with like really low energy in the afternoons. I would walk home from classes and just be struggling with energy, like feeling so tired to get home, and then struggling to keep my eyes open through dinner to like, you know, do my classwork and all the things that needed to be done. And I can tell you now in my 40s, I don't have any of those energy lows at all anymore compared to in my 20s. So all of this led up to this moment at the age of 25 when I got diagnosed with skin cancer, melanoma, and there was no explanation for it. There was no family history. I was not an obsessive tanner. Like nobody could tell me why this was happening. And it just really made me question everything that I knew about, you know, nutrition and health, because here I was studying this stuff and I was the healthiest person that I knew at the time. And every time I would go to my annual physical, my doctor would tell me, you're like the perfect patient. We wish everybody, you know, was like you, exercising and eating healthy, and that my blood work looked fine all the time. Right. And so as I went seeking for answers, I found a program called Functional Diagnostic Nutrition and attended the founder, Reed Davis's, one of his lectures that he did online. And I was blown away that the way that he was talking about the different systems of the body, what we would consider like physiology and biology and anatomy, and talking about the connection between the systems, it was like all the light bulbs went on for me. I was like, why did my physiology professor in college never talked about the systems of the body in this kind of way? So I immediately dove into that training program. And as part of that experience, you do some of the functional lab tests on yourself. And what I found with those functional lab tests was that my liver was extremely congested. I had like severe hormone imbalances that were going on. Mind you, we can circle back to this, but I had been on birth control since the age of 16. I had a 17-year stint with birth control, the birth control pills specifically, which has contributed to the experience that I've had. And I also had overgrowth of bacteria, yeast going on in my GI system that was causing things like migraines and joint pain. And I also had really high oxidative stress. So oxidative stress is the measurement of cellular or DNA damage. Think about like when you take a bite of an apple, if you leave it out on the counter, how it immediately kind of browns. Those are the cells that are dying, right? Like the damage that's occurring. And so that is kind of what can happen in our body as well too, when cells are not getting the nutrients and things that they need to thrive. And this is the perfect ecosystem or scenario for cancer, right? Yeah. So with all this data in hand, armed with all this data, I was able to make more informed, like strategic decisions about what was the right foods for my body, working to improve my sleep, choosing the right kind of exercise. What were the supplements that I needed to help restore balance to my body, eliminating toxins that were congesting my liver and clogging everything up. And here I am with you guys now, like over 17 years skin cancer free. Like I've never had a reoccurrence at all. And that's just one of the health hurdles I've overcome in life that really got me into this field of work and why we're here talking today, Sara.
So I want to touch on a couple things. You said that you changed your diet, supplements, all of that stuff. When you need to detox your body and heal it, it's not just about throwing the right foods and the supplements at it. It's what you're also taking away. So you can't just continue living your life and using the toxic laundry detergent and the toxic water and all this stuff and then throw supplements at it. It's what we're taking away and putting in. The other thing that I have to make an emphasis on, because I'm so passionate about it at the moment. I've got an 18-year-old daughter and all of her friends are wanting to be on birth control, not for the birth control, but for their painful periods.
Yeah.
But what they don't know is that it is itself an endocrine disruptor. It's hard on the liver and it's only prolonging the damage for your fertility or for your menopausal symptoms later on in life or pro-cancers. And that's not the way to handle it. And I also want to emphasize, you went through this, 25 or 15 years ago? Right now, our toxic load is so much worse than when you were going through this. So there's so many people that are dealing with this now versus back when you were. And so that all being said, let's dive into the liver. What does it do? Why is it so important? No one looks at it when they're having unexplained weight gain or headaches or hair falling out or they're not processing their nutrients. It does so much, but dive into the liver.
Yeah. So let's really paint the picture, especially for women here. I love that you talked about, these young women who are looking at birth control as an option for painful, irregular periods, because that's exactly why I started taking birth control when I was 16. Is that they were extremely irregular. Like I would go months without them and then it would arrive. I would get my period and it would be so intense. I would be like sitting on the toilet, hovering over a trash can with an upset stomach and nausea, and so of course at that time, like the solution and the answer that I received was the birth control pill, which yes, it did stop those symptoms from happening, but it also, it also had its own impacts on my body that we'll get into a little bit. But what I want to backtrack that too is that for these women out there that are having painful irregular periods, this is a signature sign that your liver is congested.
Yes.
It is 100% related to liver congestion and a lot of the toxins that are in our environment. So when you're having painful irregular periods, specifically painful periods, heavy periods, a lot of PMS, that can strongly correlate with estrogen dominance. So can weight gain or weight loss resistance, right? And one of the things that the liver does for us is it helps to get rid of excess estrogen in the body. So we live in an environment where we have high estrogen compounds, like things like plastic, BPA. We also have other endocrine disrupting types of toxic chemicals and components in our environment, or we have even, there are chemicals and toxins that are classified as xenoestrogens, meaning like things like phthalates and parabens, like they actually elevate or mimic estrogen in the body, right? So they are creating a scenario where the body thinks it has excess estrogen from these mimicking toxins, essentially. And then on top of that, the toxins themselves are causing the lymphatic system to be sluggish. They're slowing down the liver. They're backing it up. Think of it like a toilet, or a sink where there's a backup that's happening. And the liver then can't get rid of all of these things because there's just too much in the body and they get trapped. And then we get these, these symptoms and signals of things like excess estrogen that are happening in the body. And I love, Sara, that you're so passionate about talking about the load of toxins that are in our world right now, because this is like a superhuman experiment, basically. There has never been a time in history ever before that we have had to deal with or encounter so many toxins. So statistically speaking, like after the industrial age, 120,000 toxins or whatever was released in the environment. And that was years, like that statistic is old now. I've yet to see an update on what that number is, but I'm going to say we're probably close to at least 300,000. Part of what's wrong with this equation and why this happens is because when companies submit to our government agency, the EPA, to get a toxin or a chemical approved, there's no requirement that they have to check to see how it interacts with other elements,
Right.
which can create other toxicities. And so we just don't have a good system in place. We allow way too many of these things in our environment. And yes, we have a detox system, but our detox system has never had to handle this amount of a load ever before. And
I love that you're saying that, because a lot of people will say you don't need to do detoxes because the liver is meant to detox. The liver is meant to detox what our ancestors dealt with, not what we're dealing with today.
yeah,
And I did a podcast on the fact that the number one cause of children's chronic disease is not processed food.
mhm,
Processed food makes it a lot worse. It's chemicals. It
mhm.
is chemicals, because those chemicals, like you're saying, are not regulated by the government.
Yes, exactly. And so when we think about things like hair loss and weight gain, especially when you're quote unquote doing all the right things, which is a lot of the clients that I work with in my practice, they're already eating paleo or whole 30 or AIP or gone keto or carnivore. They're already exercising. I mean, shoot, a lot of these people even have gone down the road of getting all these like biohacking types of tools in their homes, like infrared saunas and different, modalities like that. And yet they're still struggling in their very specific way. And
Yeah.
when we do testing, what I find is like a client literally that just started with me last week. She, on her Dutch test, we can see that she's got elevated estrogen in her body. We can look at estrogen metabolism, that phase one estrogen metabolism, and see that the way that her liver is trying to handle estrogen is not great. We also saw indications for insulin resistance, because even though she's eating healthy, she's eating too many carbohydrates for what her body can handle, because our world is so carb centric versus fat and protein centric, which is what most people need more of. And also, we did a toxins panel. She has super high BPA in her body, amongst a couple other chemicals that are specifically related to xenoestrogens and endocrine disruptors. And she is exactly what you just described, Sarah. She's losing her hair. She's been taking some type of hair loss like medication. I can't even remember what it's called. She's struggling to lose weight regardless of going keto and trying some other things. She's also on her third round of kidney stones.
Mm.
The first one was 2 millimeters. The second one was 5. Her current kidney stone is 9 millimeters, which she does not want to have to pass. I mean, I wouldn't either. So we're working on strategies to dissolve it. And this is where we really have to look at what are the inputs into the body that are creating these scenarios. And, our body naturally wants to be in balance. So that's where I think we really have to pay attention to what are the unnatural elements and inputs into the body that are disrupting that delicate balance of it.
Right. And with her kidney stones, she might be eating too many healthy oxalate foods, the spinach and the almonds and the nuts and the berries and the chocolate. Those are things that cause the urogenital issues, the brain fog, the joint pain. These things you're like, I don't know where this is coming from, because just like you said, these are the people that are trying to do everything right.
Right.
And it doesn't make sense. And it's not a lack of willpower. We don't think that you're binging in your closet at night. We know that you're telling us the truth, but
Right.
these symptoms are a sign that something's not right. So number one, be your own doctor. The blood test and what your doctor's saying is normal. If you don't feel good, it's not normal. So
Mhm.
you've got to then come to someone like Jenn to really dig a little deeper. What are the symptoms or signs that your liver is backed up and struggling?
I mean, I think it could be pretty much anything, right? Because the liver doesn't just detox for us. It's where we convert like blood glucose and into glycogen, and it's part of our metabolism. It's where we convert thyroid, a large majority of our thyroid hormone. And the thyroid is our master metabolism agent. Like, it helps us to stay warm or regulate body temperature and lose weight and grow hair and nails and have, avoid having dry skin and dry eyes, which I see a lot with people also, like losing hair or brittle nails, that dry skin stuff, a lot of like quote unquote thyroid symptoms. But you got to ask the question, like, is it really a thyroid problem or is there something downstream that is happening? Any kind of bloating and digestive upset as well too, because if the liver is overloaded with all these toxins and it can't do its job to get them out and they're getting trapped in the body, or the thyroid can't do its job, or we have too much estrogen circulating in the body, all of those things can also negatively impact the delicate tissue of the intestinal lining and our digestive system. And then we develop food sensitivities, which we may not know about. I mean, this client that I was just talking about, you're totally right, Sarah. She had 47 food sensitivities, and we saw a very specific pattern with high oxalate foods or any oxalates in general, and also a lectin sensitivity pattern. So what does that tell me? That tells me, one, she's probably got some mold going on in her house because of the oxalates and some of her symptoms. But two is that she's in a very pro-inflammatory state. Like, these foods are not necessarily problematic when the body is in balance, but when we're very inflamed and we have what we call leaky gut, this like intestinal lining that's been damaged or is not optimal and healthy, then these problems arise. And the liver is very much connected to this, essentially, in so many different ways.
It's not the food that you're eating, it's how the food you're eating is assimilating in your body and what it's going to do. And you touched on the liver and the gut, but you also touched on the liver and the thyroid. And I really want to unpack that connection because, like I said, when my liver was backed up, my thyroid numbers were in the tank, my hormones were in the tank, and I wasn't doing anything wrong or different. And then the other thing that was different too, I just want to mention this, my blood sugar was high. And I did not change anything because that is, your liver is processing the blood sugar and glucose. So anyways, back to the thyroid, that thyroid liver connection, because, okay, I've got unexplained weight gain and I'm fatigued, my hair's falling out. Well, yes, your liver could be causing the thyroid symptoms that you look on the hypothyroid symptom list, but they're interrelated.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I see so many people where they've been diagnosed with a thyroid problem. Most common is hypothyroidism, so a sluggish, like slow thyroid is how we would quantify that, where they're really struggling with those symptoms that you talked about, like weight gain, hair loss, dry brittle nails, and skin and hair and dry eyes. For women, like losing the outer third portion of their eyebrows can be really common. And so they'll get slapped with this diagnosis and they'll be given thyroid medication. And that thyroid medication will maybe provide marginal symptom relief, but it doesn't solve the problem. Because as we're saying here, you guys, is like, is it really a thyroid problem? Like, what's going on downstream that's preventing the thyroid hormones from doing their job, right? So I really want to paint the picture for people to understand their thyroid function and how this works and why this is often overlooked if you're going to the doctor and being told that everything's fine and that you should just take thyroid medication. So first of all, if you suspect that you have a thyroid problem and you haven't been diagnosed with that, one of the reasons why that might be is because the most common thyroid marker to look at from a traditional conventional perspective is something called TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone. And TSH is actually produced by the pituitary gland in the brain to tell the thyroid to then release thyroid hormone, what we call T4, which then gets converted into thyroid hormone T3, essentially. And T3 is what gets taken up into the cells so that our thyroid hormone has this positive impact on the body to help us lose weight, regulate metabolism, regulate, our body temperature and whatnot, right? So a couple things can happen here is that oftentimes the traditional system is only looking at TSH, and TSH might be within their clinical reference range, which is often very wide and not an interpretation of what is optimal. So optimal ranges for TSH are much more narrow, like generally speaking, 0.5 to 2, versus that clinical reference range for diagnosis is like 0.5 to 4.5. And so you maybe just not like within that clinical diagnosis. Like our system is built to look at and provide diagnosis based on when something gets so severe or bad. It's not looking at what's optimal for you, right? So, but that's only one piece of the picture if you consider what all I just described and how like TSH is not even thyroid hormone. It is from the pituitary gland. And so then we want to look downstream and see what's happening. And a lot of times, when people are getting a hypothyroidism diagnosis, it's because their T3 is low. And as I just said, T4 is converted into T3. So wouldn't it like rationally make sense to wonder about that conversion and what's happening there? If we start to, yeah, if we start to put on our critical thinking caps, right, and go, like what's going on with conversion, especially when maybe you have like a decent amount of T4 that's being produced. It's just the T3 that's low. But even so, we want to look at both of these things. So as I said earlier, there's a large majority of thyroid hormone that's converted in the liver and also in the gut tissue.
So I want to stop you right there. My liver numbers, I had a traditional doctor look at my thyroid numbers. My TSH was very low. My T4 was very high, and my T3 was low, and my reverse T3 was high. So that doctor said, you're hyper. Your TSH is too low and your T4 is high. And I'm like, but my T3 is very low. Then you go to a doctor, and I know you know Dr. Amy Horneman. She says, Sara, you're hypo. How can I get the exact opposite diagnosis from two different people? So it was all because my liver. And then another factor, my daughter she was low progesterone, estrogen dominant, and that was part of her hormonal issues with her periods being very bad. And the one doctor wanted to put her on progesterone. At least it was bioidentical versus the pill. But what we realized is that was going to make her feel worse because her liver couldn't even process the hormone because it's fat-based, and she couldn't even process fats. So she had to be on a very low-fat diet for a short period of time, even a vegan diet for just a couple days to give her liver a break. And then we did some other things, got to the root of the problem instead of just throwing hormones at it, whether it's a thyroid hormone or sex hormones. You're just trying to mask the problem and not getting to the root of it. The body is screaming. Your symptoms are they're a gift. They're a gift from your body saying, I need help here. Can we dig a little deeper and find those root causes versus just throwing these blanket medications to cover them up?
Exactly. And just a little side note on that is that elevated estrogen will trigger hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's or other things. And that's actually what happened to me. So I mentioned earlier that my skin cancer was my first health hurdle that I overcame. Later in life, we had mold in our house that for I don't even know how long that we didn't know it was there. And I was feeling like I turned 30. I got married that year. I was like ideal weight, like feeling great. And then I started working from home because this is when I really started my practice, and I started working from home as an entrepreneur. And over the course of 2 years, I slowly gained 15 pounds. I broke out with cystic acne. I never even had acne as a teenager. And all of a sudden I had adult cystic acne. I was having cyclic breast tenderness that was so painful, to the point of like one day I woke up and you could feel the heat coming through 2 layers of clothing. They were like, I had this huge red streak on my breast. So here I'm freaking out going, well, I had skin cancer. Is this breast cancer? And obviously it wasn't. It was toxic mold, but this was all from the estrogen that was in my body. And what happened was this like domino effect where then it triggered hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's. I had thyroid antibodies. So I did exactly like what we're kind of talking about here is I took in that information. I eliminated lectins from my diet, those foods that were triggering those antibodies. And I took supplements to support my body in the healing process. But I also had to take a look at eliminating the toxins, the mold toxicity that was burdening my liver, that was creating mold is also a xenoestrogen. So it creates excess estrogen in the body to get my thyroid back in balance. And I will say, this is also, I think, just something to consider. Like, I made a conscious decision to take the smallest amount of thyroid medication, a natural thyroid medication, not synthetic. So there are natural alternatives out there to support my body while I worked on all of these environmental and lifestyle factors, right? Because I was feeling really low at that time, and I knew that my body needed that support. I was off of thyroid medication and in remission from Hashimoto's within 6 months.
Amazing.
So it's not a life sentence, right? And I think that we do want to, again, just do some critical thinking and go, okay, I'm going to make a conscious decision to support my body in this way right now, while I'm working on the downstream, root causes of essentially what is going on, basically, right? So, for going back to this liver gut connection, we just want to acknowledge that all of the systems of the body work in synchronicity together. They are not individualized. They're not a silo, which I think that the structure of our conventional system kind of makes us think that, or that's just been the standard of care. Like, you go to an endocrinologist for hormones, you go to a gastroenterologist for gut stuff, but those people aren't talking to each other. So we want to look at the whole picture and ultimately go, how are all these things connected? And then, what are the patterns and correlations that we're seeing here? And how do we utilize that information to then inform the decisions that we're going to make to support our body and ultimately get it back into balance? Because as we said earlier, the body wants to be in balance.
I love that you brought up that the doctors are not talking to each other. My mom had a horrible fall, fell off a horse, broke her pelvis, had to be on medication. The medication made her liver enzymes go real high. So she was then on a steroid for the, of course, against everything that I was telling her to do. But she's 80 and she's scared. So she listens to her doctor. But she even said, Sarah, I asked my bone doctor what he thought of me being on a steroid for my liver. And he said, and the doctor said, quote unquote, I have no opinion. That is not my expertise. That is not my area to focus on. And she's like, are you kidding me? These doctors have no idea what each other are telling the patient.
Yeah.
And it is all related. And when you're talking about your mold, because like I said, we could go on for 3 hours here. What's interesting, another part of my journey, and I always say, God, it's a gift. Every health challenge is a gift, because then I have to be forced to learn more deeply about it and then be able to share it, just like you're doing. But we're in an era with all of these toxins, our liver's being backed out. We're seeing more candida, parasites, gut pathogens, all of these other things. And they're supposed to live nicely in the sandbox and just kind of live cohesively. I, of course, following my liver situation, had a skin breakout. And the skin breakout, because the skin is your largest detox organ. So if the liver is overburdened, where else is it going to go? It's going to go out of the skin. And it was parasitic. We don't need to get into the details because it's quite disgusting. But what I've learned, though, from this is that it's not just a parasite. It's the fungus, the parasites, the candida, the mold, the viruses, the bacteria, all of them are playing together. And a lot of people are seeing varicella virus, the shingles come out, strep. Right now we're in flu season and strep is huge. Well, it's not just strep. Then there's the Epstein-Barr virus and more parasites. And I've heard you say it, and I love that you said it, because I always say, oh, it's a full moon, it's a new moon. Are you itchy? Are you feeling a little sicker than you did the other day? Are you retaining water? Are you constipated? And those are signs that you've got little buggers in there that are stirring things up. So
Yep.
it's not just one thing. It's not just take the antibiotic for the one bacteria. It's all of these things, and we want to just calm them down, get rid of them very peacefully,
Mhm.
because they will, have fight or flight and really wreak havoc on your body if you do it the wrong way.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I wanted to just bring that up and how that can also be related to the thyroid, and the liver and the gut.
Yeah, I mean, I love talking about this. I'm so glad you brought it to the conversation because we also want to recognize that one, all those gut bugs that you just mentioned, parasites, bacteria, yeast overgrowth, they create their own waste product.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is gross to think about, but yes, they have their own bug poo, essentially. And so those toxic elements clog and congest the liver also. There also are specific parasites called liver flukes that live within the liver and the other tissues of the body. They don't just like hang out in the GI system, they hang out all over the place. And I found this really interesting. So one of the conferences that I attended this past year, it was Cellcore. They're a supplement brand that I love to use because they really specialize in environmental toxins and parasites and whatnot. And they were doing a presentation, and in the presentation they showed a study about parasites. And the study was looking at fish tissue where a parasite lived, like in the tissue, in comparison to the parasite itself and the toxic, the toxic levels, right? So comparing the toxins in the fish tissue compared to the toxins in the parasite. And the toxins in the tissue were less than what was inside the parasite. And so basically, what the conclusion was of the study is that the parasites are sponges for toxins. So they do serve an evolutionary purpose, right? Like you said earlier, Sarah, that, it is like it's part of our natural ecosystem. I always give the analogy of like whales and barnacles. So barnacles on whales are basically like a form of parasite. We see this in the natural world all the time. I think about like, the elephants, or you watch any kind of National Geographic, like a lot of animals out there have like parasitic type of creatures that live in symbiotically with them, right? It's part of the ecosystem. They both serve a purpose. But when those parasites become overgrown, become a problem, they can create all this chaos and dysfunction on the inside. But then we still have to go ask that question and go, what makes you a good host for parasites?
Right.
Or bacteria or whatever's happening. And so that's where we can really start to look at, again, what are these external inputs, these unnatural inputs that are creating an ecosystem where the parasites are thriving. And then we come back to toxins again, right? If they are sponges for toxins, we know that we have more toxins in our environment than we've ever seen before. So they are serving this purpose for us. Now, that purpose may not be serving us necessarily in the ways that we want to, but they are serving a purpose. And so, how do we actually get rid of parasites? Well, we have to address the toxic load in the body, right? And the foods that we're feeding them, and also our stress, because when we're stressed out, our body creates something called biofilm, which creates a protective layer for them. And we live in this stressful modern day world, so we have to address that. In addition to then, like you said, safely eradicating, like addressing the parasites, which can be done with very potent and specific herbs. We don't have to necessarily do that with medications either that can leave residual effects on the body.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Like I said, Jen, we could talk forever on all of these, and we might need to have a follow up on them. Um, but we are out of time, and you definitely know your stuff. So please tell people where they can find you and follow you and just work with you.
Yeah, I love to hang out on Instagram for direct, like regular communication, connection with people. I'm sharing information, tips, and insights like we've talked about today over there all the time. On Instagram, you can find me as Holistic Health Boss. So think holistic with a W, like whole body, whole foods, right? Whole person. And also, you can come directly connect with me at my website, holistichealthboss.com. I've got a regular newsletter. You can schedule a discovery call with me over there if you're interested in some of the testing and things that we talked about today.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jen. I'm so appreciative of your knowledge, and we obviously are very like-minded when it comes to all of this stuff.
Yes. Well, thank you for having this platform to get this very important information out to people.
Oh my goodness. Does she not echo everything that I love to talk about? And just to circle back, the liver, it's dirty. It's the detoxification organ. It is responsible for producing that estrogen binding protein to get rid of those bad estrogens. And like I said, there's the good estrogen and then there's the bad estrogens. They are not the same. They shouldn't even have the same name. When the liver's dirty, it can't work. It's like that bathtub just keeps filling up and the plug is there and it's going to overflow. So the liver's where it does the phase 1, 2, and 3 estrogen detoxification. Well, something we didn't talk about is the toxins of the halogens, the heavy metals, the mercury, the fluoride, bromide, chlorine. All of those are filling those thyroid receptor sites because we are so iodine deficient. Iodine deficiency affects 96% of you unless you're supplementing with iodine. And iodine is used by the endocrine system to regulate the estrogen production in both men and women. And we are so deficient. So those two things. And that's why I love the accelerated liver care. I told you my liver was under attack last fall. My numbers were over 700. Just within 2 weeks, the accelerated liver care brought my liver enzymes down. It was unreal. It actually shocked me. It is the only liver supplement with very rare 13 herbs that are concentrated in 10 to 1, meaning 10 pounds of an herb into 1 pound. And so you're getting so much more for your money, but it detoxifies your liver. It rebuilds your liver. It supports the gallbladder health. It helps with your blood sugar and cholesterol. Has your cholesterol gone up out of nowhere? That's happening to a lot of people. It boosts your immune system. It also calms the mind. We're not crazy, you guys. It's not your fault. It could be your liver. Your liver is where it holds the frustration and anger hormones or emotions. So if you're feeling a lot of agitation, it could be your liver. And so the accelerated liver care, you can take it just as a daily maintenance at 3 to 5 caps a day, or you can do more of a therapeutic dose of 3 to 5 caps twice a day, or you can of course do it with the accelerated liver flush cleanse to get all of those gallstones in the toilet. You probably have hundreds to thousands of them, inhibiting that liver function. How can your liver function when you have these pea-sized gallstones in there? So that's number one. And then the accelerating iodine. It is the only iodine that is monoatomic, meaning one molecule of iodine that is looking to attach itself to every cell in the body, in your brain, your thyroid, your breast tissue, your muscles, helps with protein synthesis, helps with cleansing the liver cleansing the blood so the liver can do its job, increasing that ATP inside the mitochondria and inside the cells. That is your energy, right? It also supports the cell membrane, which is the brain of every cell, with that iodolipid value, iodine and fat value. That is what the cell membrane is made up of, is iodine and fat. So without a healthy cell membrane, we can't get the toxins out of the cells and the nutrients in. And we're talking with Jen about all of these toxins that we're being bombarded with. So it's not just about cleansing the liver, it's literally cleansing the cells. It kicks out, the accelerating kicks out all of those halogens, the heavy metals, it boosts that cellular energy, and it, like I said, it is unlike any other iodine supplement. Most iodine supplements only have about 10 to 20% absorption. Accelerating iodine gets close to 100%. It is truly a game changer. If I was on a deserted island and I could take only one supplement, it would be the accelerating iodine. If I could take two, it would be the accelerated liver care. However, if I was on a deserted island, I wouldn't be around all these toxins. So maybe I wouldn't need it as much. So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you for listening. Our discussion does not have to stop here. If you're feeling lost in the supplement world, no worries. I'm here to help. You can start by getting your free supplement protocol. Just head to SaraBantaHealth.com, complete the form, and get a personalized protocol for you just from me. And follow me on social media at Accelerated Health Products. Join the free group coaching. There's no downside. You can ask your questions there about everything we talked about with Jenn today. And you can find this podcast and all of my podcasts at Accelerated Health with Sara Banta on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, E360, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Roku, and over 100 different platforms. Share this podcast with your friends, whether they're trying to get on birth control or thyroid medication or something, and they're not looking at the root problem of the liver and the gut and getting down to it so that you can heal your body from the inside out. You can use coupon podcast10 to get 10% off site-wide. Remember, I'm live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so join me next time for more ways to unlock your health potential.